Questions. Can a regular Hatha Yoga practice relieve and cure low back pain? We sincerely think so for non-specific chronic low back pain. The diversity of Hatha Yoga postures makes it possible to stretch and strengthen a multitude of muscles and to mobilize the spine in all its degree of freedom. However, certain principles of biomechanics must be followed and respected in the choice and execution of posture. So, choice of posture. Choose posture that first strengthens the abdominal muscles and the rotator deep muscles of the trunk. Second, stretch and lengthen the flexor and extensor muscles of the hip. Third, deco-adapt and mobilize the facet joint of the lumbar spine. Now concerning the execution of posture. Stretch slowly and for a long time. And second, ensure the perception of the lumbo-pelvic hip dynamics. So let's move to 5 questions to very well understand all what I've just been talking about. First question, why is it necessary to strengthen the abdominal muscles and the deep rotator muscles of the trunk? Because the strengthening of its muscles provides significant support to the lumbar spine. The abdominal muscles and deep rotator muscles are synergistic muscles. It means that they perform similar actions of flexion, rotation, and erection of the trunk. When lifting a load or any other physical effort, it is important that the lumbar spine and the core muscles form a real composite beam. Otherwise, it is the intervertebral disc and the small joints between the lumbar vertebra which will have to absorb the mechanical stresses linked to these efforts, with the risk of wear and even mechanical damage which generate lumbar pain. Second question. So why stretch and soften the flexor and extensor muscles of the hip? These are multi-articular muscles that bridges the knee and hip joints. If these muscles are too short and lack of extensibility, they block the movement of the pelvis and hips, and it is again the lumbar spine which must counter this deficit in flexibility and abnormally stressing the lumbosacral hinge. Therefore, good mobility of the hips and pelvis protects the lumbar spine. Third, why deco-adapt and mobilize the facet joint of the lumbar spine? Because a careful mobilization of this small intervertebral joint can also relieve low back pain by mobilizing the pelvis in the frontal plane while the shoulders remain immobile in the horizontal plane. Torsional movement of the lumbar spine are generated which mobilize and open the joint space of this small facet joint. Fourth question, why stretch slow and long? Stretch slowly because muscles and tendons are viscoelastic properties. They have viscoelastic properties. The more they are lengthened, the more the intrinsic tension increases, and the more this elongation takes place quickly, the more this intrinsic tension increases over time, with the consequence of microlesions or risk of microlesions, which can also generate pain. So the more you stretch slowly, the less the intrinsic tension is high and the risk of injury is reduced. Stretch for a long time to give time to the muscular tendinous structures to deform. If the tension generated by the stretch is kept constant for a while, then the muscle will continue to lengthen, and this is called creep. Fifth questions. Why percept the lumbo-pelvic hip dynamics? The movement of the pelvis and the lumbar spine are linked. A tilt of the pelvis forward is accompanied by lumbar lordosis. A tilt of the pelvis towards the back is accompanied by a lumbar delordosis. So the ideal posture is to keep a physiological lordosis, and through certain yoga postures, it is quite easy to perceive this complementary in the movement, which we call the lumbo-pelvic hip dynamics.
Hello, secrets.